Yo! Dude, I just clipped the mic so hard. Just with the first sound I meant. Whatever. It's fine. It's going into a compressor, dude. Anyway, what's up? I'm Drewsif. It's Drewsif. Hey, I want to tell y'all how you can get great sounding metal vocal... greatest objective. Great sounding metal vocal recordings out of an iPhone. So the gear that I used for this video is my iPhone 14 and Reaper, I guess, technically. I'm going to do my best to be succinct, but that's not something that I would ever refer to myself as. So here we go. Okay, so we've opened up Reaper, 2 different vocal takes. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the tracks, obviously. If you just drag it into the program, it'll do that for you. And then what I do beyond that, I actually drag the track. I'll just do it with a new one just so you can see it. I drag the track into another track. And that essentially means that all of the sound that's coming out of that track goes into this track, so we can affect all of it at once. And the reason why we want to do that is so that we can group these 3 vocal recording tracks together and then affect all of them at once here. What I've got is my main kind of talking track. I do a little explanation of the beginning of the song. What's up, y'all? I'm Drewsif. A pipe burst in the room next to my studio, so I can't do for real vocals there. So after that, we've got our main track, and then I did a second ad-lib track, which is just to layer screams and stuff for certain parts that make it sound better if you're doing a high and a low at the same time. If y'all are wondering what these tracks are at the bottom, I decided to do this spur of the moment. Didn't even remember my own song well enough. So this is literally just a visual guide. These are high screams, these are mid screams, and these are low screams. Okay, so cool. The first thing that I did just to kind of help out the microphone, I came in and I did a bunch of hand compression so that our compressors that we end up going into don't have to work quite as hard. So if I turn it off, that's just the A button on the keyboard. Turns on a volume envelope, so you can see kind of what's happening generally there. Just leveling stuff out. The one thing to be careful about in that case is you can like really slam your S's super. What an ironic thing. S. You can get your S's way louder than they're meant to be if you're hand compressing. Identify places where your S's would typically happen and just make sure that you're not blasting those super loud. Let me see if I can find one. Maybe it's doing its own. The iPhone might be doing its own little bit of de-essing or something there. Hand compressing, you just go in, drop a little point, and then go to where I see another peak. So like right here, drop another 2 points, and then you just kind of pull that up, and you want to get them kind of everything just roughly around the same spot. But you want to make sure that you don't push it too far, because then it'll clip and it'll sound really bad. Although, ironically, we're going to do our own clipping later, but that's an artistic decision, not a technical mistake. Or at least that's what we're going to say that it is. Take a look at our talking track, see what's happening here. It looks like it's probably the same thing as the other tracks. Yep. So I guess maybe I just compressed it a little bit less on the talking track or something. So let's just jump into it, dude. I'm going to turn on our effects there, and I'm going to turn them all off here. A little compressor action. We've got a 12-ish to 1, which is a super crazy hard compression. We are doing 0.40 millisecond attack, and our release is at 50. So the idea behind this, whatever is coming in is going to hit the compressor and duck like crazy. So the big peaks and stuff are going to get super ducked. So here is without. And here's with. Gives you a little something, a little extra movement, a little extra something going on. It's going to be different for everybody because of level that's coming in. So what we want to do is with this threshold, we're going to bring it down until we're seeing like roughly 10-ish dB of gain reduction.
Living each day. Living each day.
Yeah, so like right around there. Cool. And that is our first super strong boy, thick boy compression. So the next thing we're going to do, another compressor, just immediately. This one has an even faster attack, and our release is very slow. The idea with the first one is to catch the huge peaks, and this one is to just level everything out more gently, more slowly. So there's with the one compressor, and here's with our second rounding out compressor. Just like a little 3 to 4 dB gain reduction. So all in all so far, this is sans compression entirely. And then here is with both of our compressors. Cool. Let's move it along, dude. We're doing some kind of chill cleaning up here on this EQ. So we're getting rid of the super rumbly bits. I found at least my voice kind of hits hard in the like 300, 400 range, kind of like the like sort of. Yeah, I'm just making sounds now. So I clear a little bit out of the bottom there, and then I gave myself a little high boost. It looked like we were getting some kind of like hiss with, I guess was just like the noise floor of the microphone or something. So pre-EQ, and then with, it's nothing super crazy. It's only, yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it's only a 3 dB boost there. We're only cutting out 3 dB. This is rolling off below 80 hertz, which is like not much of a roll off at all, but. And that's what we got so far, dude. So here's before. And then here's after. So let's move on to the sauce. This is a little plugin by, I believe it's pronounced Klanghelm. This is also free. I'll put a link to this somewhere so you can go grab it. Did I leave the mix at 100%? That is quite the move. Okay. So this is basically, this is a distortion plugin, and we're going to make our vocals sound a lot worse. When I was growing up, I didn't know that people used distortion on vocals, and I thought that they just pushed the heck out of their voice to make distortion happen. And I think a lot of people think that, and that leads to people hurting their voices like I did, which is a really cool thing to have happen. So, all right, before and after. Actually, now that I listen to it, it's not even really doing that much. Giving us a little something. So our response here, we're turning up so that it responds to the higher frequencies instead of the lower frequencies. Because if we flip back and just turn this up so you can kind of hear it. Just gives us a little more sheen, and it's reacting to the higher stuff so we don't get that weird kind of lower fuzz crap. And then we just turn that back down to a reasonable level. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think what I would have done is use Reaper's mix knob function, maybe like slam this, and then I would use this mix knob here to bring it back down, so we're getting both at the same time. But I didn't do that, so we're not gonna do that. At the point we are now, here's before, here's after. Now we're going to use something called Reverb. It is a dynamics processor, and it does a lot of things that I don't particularly understand how it works, but I know well enough to do what I needed to do with it. So this is a free / poor man's Soothe 2 by Oak Sound, which is, if you're into like super serious recording and stuff, that plugin is like the best thing in the universe, and everybody should have it. And oh my god, I love them so much. But okay, so what we're doing with this is kind of using it to clear out some of the whistles and stuff, but instead of with an EQ where you make a dip and it just gets rid of that frequency once and for all. It will dynamically react so that if it hears that frequency too much, it'll go, oh, okay, I'll duck that down a little bit for you. I got you, dude. That's what we're doing here. Apparently not really at all. So we're going to turn on the Delta mode, which shows us the difference in what this plugin is doing. It's taking some of the air out. A lot of the vocalists I've worked with kind of have like this whistle thing super high up, and then just due to the way that metal vocals work, it's kind of really focusing on sort of a whistle around like the 1K-ish, like that. If you think about it, is this is going to keep it, but chill it out a little bit. So that is our first big part of this whole thing. So here's with no effects. And here's with. It's worth saying, if I were going really hard with this vocal recording, I would have done this again, because you can hear that little frequency, you can hear, or like that kind of range, you can hear that coming out of my voice, and I typically would do that take again, but I didn't, because the whole point is that it was a one take. So sometimes you don't do your best, and it's so let's move on. Cool. So we have an ad-lib track, and it's literally just the exact same thing. I just copied and pasted all of the effects onto that track. Alone, it's this. And then with the ad-lib track, that looks like I did a pretty bad job rhythmically. Let's move on. So remember earlier when I was like, we're going to move all of these tracks into a different track so that we can affect all the tracks at once. Now we're going to talk about that track. Clearing out our lows again. It looks like, yeah, we've got a high pass around 200, and we got a little notch up top again. I think that is either me trying to clear out more noise, like a hissy noise kind of thing, or it's me trying to deal with the kind of airy frequency in my voice. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's taken some of the junk out of my voice, and this is just clearing up our super low end. When you distort and saturate, you end up adding a lot of frequencies that you may have cut out, and we don't really need those super low ones, so just get rid of them before and then after. Nothing super crazy, but we're just setting ourselves up for success. So now we're running another compressor, somewhat slow attack and a pretty standard release. And it's just, again, to level everything out, especially because we have 2 tracks running at some times and then 1 track running at another time.
Growing, not sleep until you die. Living each day with the falcon, and may be your last.
So without
living each day with the living each day with the falcon.
That's also a way that we can make sure that all of our vocal transients hit the same way, because they're hitting the same compressor. And then we move on to our multiband compressor. And this is going to be a bit of a hard one to show you what's going on here. So we have 4 different frequency ranges that we're compressing. Just helps, again, to kind of level everything off. From 100 to 300-ish, we are running a little bit of compression 2 to 1-ish. I generally try and keep my multibands like under 2 to 1, so it's not doing anything super crazy. We got a pretty slow attack so that we can let those transients through, and then the release is like immediate. This basically is just going to take everything below 300 hertz and make sure it's hitting just about the same place. Yeah, so roughly like up to 5 dB gain reduction. Moving on to our next frequency band, it is 300 hertz to roughly 1200 hertz, 1.2 kilohertz. Some quick math for you, dude. Looks like I'm running the ratio a little bit harder, and let's see what kind of gain reduction we're doing here. Living each day with the falcon. So it looks like I went for roughly 5 decibels of gain reduction kind of across every frequency. So same thing, our attack is kind of slow and our release is super quick. So we're just gluing it all up, baby. This one is roughly 1.2K up to about 5.5K. It's a 2-to-1, 35 millisecond attack, 8 millisecond release, roughly 4 dB gain reduction. That ain't too crazy. So let's move on. This is anything from that 5.5 kilohertz up to the tippy top of
the physical realm of possibility for audio signals.
Or something like that. My ratio is at 4.7. My attack is quicker and my release is pretty slow. I tend to do this for the higher frequencies because it sounds good. I should have a better answer for why I do that, but that's the truth.
Living insane, what the Falcon, and we pay your last, so keep the roof over your head.
Roughly 5-6 at most dB gain reduction. So let's hear before our multiband.
Living insane, what the Falcon, living insane, what the Falcon.
There you go. So just, is keeping everybody nice and glued together. Let's move on. We are doing the refer thing again, pretending that we own Soothe another time.
Living insane, what the Falcon.
And I'm betting that this is cleaning up some of that kind of like breathy range. Let's see. Yep. So we're just cleaning up a little bit more breath stuff before.
Living insane, what the Falcon.
And after.
Living insane, what the Falcon.
Probably could have gone a little bit harder on that, but cool. So our last move here is a little limiter action. And this is, I think I just shoot for 4 or 5 dB gain reduction again. This is basically just so that we have a brick wall of vocals coming out.
Living insane, what the Falcon, and we pay your last, if you fucking can.
Yeah, so we're just raising our noise floor a lot and generally making it sound worse, it kind of seems. But that was the decision that I made, so here we are.
Living insane, what the Falcon.
You see that big spike right there? I do not like that. I would typically try and avoid that. So that means maybe we didn't go hard enough on the saturation somewhere earlier, or we're compressing a little too hard or something like that, because that's way, way more than it should be. But that's essentially what we're doing with our limiter, is just cutting off that little extra transient stuff that's not really going to do anything.
Living insane, what the Falcon, and we pay your last.
So that's it, dude. We can do a little before and after just for the sake of it. So here's with absolutely nothing.
Living insane, what the Falcon, and we pay your last.
With all of our effects and volume automation.
Living insane, what the Falcon, and we pay your last.
All right, so after that, we're going to send all of that to another track, which we will do via a bus. So you hit your little route button and you say send, and then you make a new track and you say Vox Wet is what I called it. Sounds a little something like this. So mostly what we want to do with our reverb track, our vocals are a mono signal, but I want to kind of spread them out. So what I'm mostly using this reverb for is to push our vocals out to the sides a little bit to take up a little bit more space with the bits and the antics. The first thing I'm going to do before I run into a reverb, clean out a little bit of the low end and the high end, especially on vocals. If you don't clean out that high end before you send into a reverb, those S's can just run away with you, man. So we're just kind of... And so let's see if we don't do that. If we do... And it looks like, yeah, I'm even running a low pass and a high pass again after the reverb. This is just Reaper's built-in reverb plugin, like roughly 2-second reverb with a little bit of dampening and just slamming the room size. See what I mean? It just sounds a little too bright there. So you pull that off. And honestly, that still is brighter than I'd like it to be. I think I would... There's like a little something I'm hearing that I really don't. Yeah, like right around there. No, it's not quite it. Yeah, there it is. But anyway, yeah, just a little bit of that. Now, with our reverb.
Living insane, what the fuck, God? You may pay your last, so keep the roof over your head.
Also, once again, if this wasn't a one take, I would come in and I would clean up this rhythm a little bit. But we're doing it for real. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me see if I'm doing anything else. So another thing that you can do if you're finding that your vocals are still not cutting through, you can bus them to the 3 and 4 track of your instrumental. So if you run all of your instruments to one track, then you can send all of your vocals, which is another reason why we made that little folder in the beginning, to the instrumental track, but on 3 and 4 instead of 1 and 2. So it has the information, but it's not actually playing the sound out of it. And then you can drop a compressor on here, and you tell the compressor, hey, use the auxiliary inputs. So when your vocals happen, it just very slightly ducks your mix. Yeah, we're not even doing a full decibel of gain reduction there. A little something extra to kind of cut the vocals in a little bit. That's pretty much it. Am I doing something here? Okay, yeah, just like this is what I would typically do, kind of mastering, but super stripped down. The same idea as the vocal bus, doing a little bit of multiband just to keep everything within reasonable ranges there. So... Nothing crazy, just kind of doing a little bit on our master just to keep everything glued together. Specifically with the high frequencies, I find it's a good way to get your treble frequencies kind of more congruent, is to compress all of them at once. Might not be a good idea, but it's worked for me, and I've been doing it for more than a decade at this point. So after that, just running into a limiter, mostly just to get volume back, because now that I'm looking at it, we have our track dropped about 6 dB, and our threshold here is like 5.3, so it's just kind of getting our volume back a little bit. There you go. That's it, dude. That's how you can get some decent sound and vocals out of a friggin' iPhone for a metal song. If you like this, or if it helped you, please consider hitting the like button. Maybe a little subscribulous. If you have any tips or tricks yourself, or questions, drop them in the comments and let's friggin' talk about it, my dudes. Thank you very much. You're lovely. I wish you the greatest in your musical sound creation journey. And if you want to learn about some other ways that you can do vocal processing or some other mixing things, then you can check that out here, somewhere here, probably over my face. I'm going to put it right over my friggin' face, dude. I got merch, and I got Patreon and YouTube membership. If you want to do that, you can go get song stems, some tabs, and that kind of stuff. You do whatever you want, all right? Have a lovely day. Thank you. I'm Drewsif, and I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here right now, dude. Whoa!